Hello everyone, it's Linda. Welcome. We're going to be doing something with scraps today. I've got a pile here. Now what I want to do is to make a landscape that just a landscape base that I can come back later and build tiny houses, do my embroidery stitches and things like that, trees, flowers. But first getting a landscape base and just using scraps to do that with, okay? So we want to transform these scraps into a landscape base. Now I've got a piece of very lightweight batting here. It will frame out nicely as a 5x7. It's 7x7.5, so it gives me a lot of room to play with, but then it would frame out nicely as a 5x7. Now how do I do this? Just about like everybody else does. You start auditioning fabrics across and changing them out and reposition them the way you want to and see what you get out of it. I have a little blue here. Has a lot of color in it, so I'm thinking that that's not gonna work for my sky. But I might can put just a vanilla sky in here and see what happens with that. I have this nice piece here. What I'm going to do also is I'm going to fire up my iron because some of these scraps are pretty wrinkled and it's hard to get a real gauge on your landscape when everything is wrinkled up. So let me just get it here and plugged in and get ready on that. Working in a tight area here on my desk because I have everything strung out. So let's see if it's a pretty generic color across there. Oh, better cut that so I don't do that again. Let's just cut some of that. Okay. All right. Now let's see. I want to, let's, something like that. Give me a little bit of a dark heel running area in the back. Everybody has a little different way they like to lay out things. You know, it doesn't really matter. If you like it when you get it laid out, that's what matters. So just do something you like and work with that, because you can, for one thing, these landscapes can be changed so much when you start stitching them and putting your different elements on. If you're going to put trees, flowers, little houses, whatever you're going to put into them. You know what? I think I might change that. Get me a heel going here and then a little bit of a darker layer. Try and get it a bit like that. Angling is what gives you your land, the contour. Angling your fabric, of course, gives the illusion that you've got movement or diversity, rolling heels and things like that. Any kind of scrap that you've got, don't think that, well, that won't work, because look at it. I mean, really. Let's iron it out here. It had some fuzzy cuts out of it, and so it's pretty. But you know, I like to audition everything. Sometimes things really surprise me. You Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to round off these really flat or pointy areas, make it look more like a rolling landscape. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, now we have something a little, let's just cut some of that off. We have a little diversity going here. Okay, let's see what I want in here next. And because I'm planning this to frame out as a 5x7, I know I have drop-off area on the side. This is this is 7 inches wide, so I can drop off an inch on both sides, and so I'm not really concerned about whether something comes all the way to the edge or not, because I know I'm going to be framing it in like that. So that's one reason why I like to play with something a little bigger than what I'm actually going to use. Now this is a gauzy fabric, and I'm not sure it's going to give me what I want, but we're going to try it. Also, you start out, you lay stuff out, but then, you know, when you lay the next thing out, then that other thing didn't work. So that's when you start, you're just auditioning, and that's when you start changing things around a little and make it work for you. Gauzes, I love gauze because it just blends in and feathers in really, really well. And it'll lay on top of each other and you won't even see where it begins and ends. It's a nice fabric to work with, and it also gives a whole different texture, as you can see. Like this gold, it's a solid. It gives me you want some things that play as solids. You don't want pattern everywhere. But okay. Leave it like that for now. We got some green here. It's pretty busy green. Let's see, what else do I have? Got some stripe. I wonder what that would do. Let's try a little bit. This plays pretty with that, doesn't it? In fact, I think I'm going to put it full blown down and lay this one on top like that. Okay, now I need a little something back here that's gonna break up that. What do I got? Let's see. I think I'm gonna have to go hunting for something. Wait a minute. Got these little black pieces. They almost look like heels already. if I put stuck one in there. Bring this one in a little bit. Don't want to lose him all when I frame him out. Okay. Now, something like this is great because it gives plenty of room for your style of whatever it is you want to put on there. Let me see real quick if I have something to demonstrate that with. No, I don't have anything at hand. So, but if you have a little house to sit here, bring your road up with your embroidery, make some trees and things like that. Or you can take something like this and let's say make some greenery. This is real woven. It's easy to pull apart and get it the way you want it, little pieces of it. Let's say we want to break up a little of this. We want to put a little growth in there. We want to do that, let's say along here. You can see where that starts to play in with growth. So you can start with some diversity like that with just some fiber, and it cuts down on some of the stitching you might have to do. But you will have plenty of opportunity to finish stitching the way you want it. You could add a moon or a sun, you can add stars, you can add clouds, you could add, let's see, if you take a little piece of lacy material, something like this, and you just use bits and parts of it. You can get a cloud effect in the back that looks pretty. You might even tuck this cloud under behind the heel, like that, and then have another smaller one. Maybe that's sitting over the mountain or near the mountain, and one hovering in between. You could do something like that for a cloud effect. I have made clouds out of something like this. It's pretty too. You can even add it, layer it on to give a little bit of color and texture. Let's say we just add a little of that to that. And we string a little of that out here. So it looks like we've got a little color going on in our sky. Okay, so you get the idea of what I'm talking about. Press down this yarn. Now, what I would do with this now is just take it and I'm going to pin some of these elements so they don't slide off. because what I would do now is for my own personal projects is I would take this to the sewing machine and I would make several runs to get it basically tacked down well enough that things aren't going to move when I start working my handwork. So that doesn't mean I'm going to sew everything on the machine, because I'm not, but I am going to pick a few, like I might come across the top here, which is going to catch these, and then I might come across here, which is going to catch this, and then I might come across here, which is going to catch these two, and then I might come across here, and that would be enough to hold everything in place so that I can work on it without things moving or dropping off. And of course, pinning it right now just keeps it in position for me when I get ready to sew. Again, you don't want it moving or dropping off while you're trying to get your base down. And don't be stingy with your pins. Use as many as you want. You can take them out as you start to sew. It's not going to be a problem. Okay. I'm thinking that probably is enough. And that's how I would do that. Before I take it to the machine though, I'm going to go ahead and clean up these edges. I'm going to cut off what I don't need from the back side. Again, some of this will frame out, but while I'm sewing, I want to be able to see where my sides are, and so cleaning up the edges helps to do that. And you can do this any pile of scraps because every landscape looks different. Some are very colorful, very varied, lots of stripes of different colors and densities and so forth and so on. So just any pile of scraps you can do this with. You may want to possibly get you a couple of neutrals or some solids if you have your scraps are all patterned. And so you see this is a pattern, but it reads almost like a neutral tan because of the colorization and the pattern. And even though this is very floral, it reads more just like a burnt sienna or something across here. And this blue and brown the same way. But polka dots really stand out, and this black and white really stands out pattern-wise. But otherwise, that would make a beautiful landscape. Let me show you what that would look like under a frame. Now this one's a little bigger than a 5x7, but it will give you the idea of what I'm talking about. That would be your landscape. And can't you just imagine a little walkway or a little road and a little house sitting here, and a field of sunflowers over here, maybe a couple apple trees in the back growing there, and then just some stitching that gives movement and growth back in here up into your clouds and things like that. Wouldn't it be fun to stitch just starting from that? So when you've got scraps and you've got a little bit of batting, sit down and put together some landscapes. You don't have to work on them right then if you don't want to. Stack them up. And then when you need a project or a last minute project, just grab one and you're ready to go stitch. So hope that helps you see how scraps can transform. Until next time, this is Linda. Bye-bye.